Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to a second edition of Breaking News for this Thursday. It's the 9th day of October, 2025, and events continue to move very fast as we await the return of the hostages. All right, from the Jerusalem Post, our top story, President Trump lauds ending the war in Gaza, says the hostages will be free either Monday or Tuesday, so it's coming soon. We're very excited about that as long as anything doesn't go wrong. And speaking of going wrong, from the Times of Israel, a senior Hamas official says, "We receive U.S. guarantees to end the war." Well, Israel has given the same guarantees the war will end if Hamas follows the Trump plan. So we'll have to wait and see if they do. And again, it's not over till it's over. All right, our third story headline in this edition of Breaking News: the Israel-Hamas ceasefire hostage deal sparks global praise. This is from YNET, and as it should, the leaders from around the world are heaping praise on Donald Trump. Not so much Netanyahu, they don't like him, but Trump getting it done. The different mediators there, they all did a great job. It was Trump, Netanyahu, and again, they had help from Qatar, from Egypt, and from Turkey. And we've got to admit that. And for whatever reason, we've come to this point where supposedly the hostages will be freed in just a few days. So again, we will wait and see. Our fourth headline: Israel's military pressure brought Gaza hostages home. The IDF chief Eyal Zamir tells the soldiers, and this is so true. It's by way of the Jerusalem Post. Lest we forget, we're going to mention this, over 1,000 soldiers died in trying to, basically get rid of Hamas in Gaza. Many of them were injured. Many have suffered, psychosis, many mental problems from war. And it's really a sad situation. It'll be so nice to get back to at least a time of peace, or there's a time where, it's been over 2 years now, where they won't be this daily war updates. So we just have to wait and see, because like we said, it's only phase one. When the hostages are returned, there's a lot more still to be done. So we will see, but they do deserve a lot of uh, kudos for the pressure they gave and the hard work that they did there. And so Zamir told the soldiers it was the pressure by the military that brought the hostages home. All right, and finally, our last story: the Palestinian Authority plans for a major role in post-war Gaza, despite the U.S. blueprint. The Jerusalem Post. Mahmoud Abbas, do not hold your breath. They don't want you around in any way, shape, or form. We'll explain why as we get to headline number 5. So let's get to it. Donald Trump lauds ending the war in Gaza, says the hostages to be freed Monday or Tuesday, from the Jerusalem Post. He also confirmed he would come to Israel and speak at the Knesset this Sunday. So he's going to be there Sunday speaking at the Knesset, that's the Israeli parliament. He says the hostages are getting released on Monday or Tuesday. In his first address to the media on Thursday, since the Gaza deal agreement was announced, we secured the release of all the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday, he said during a press conference ahead of a cabinet meeting. We ended the war in Gaza. Getting them is a complicated process. I would rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we're getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. The president then confirmed that he would address the Knesset on Sunday. He announced early yesterday, if you remember, that Israel and Hamas had agreed to the first phase of a ceasefire deal in Gaza. He told reporters on Thursday they would attend a second signing of the deal in Egypt, which he believes will lead to a lasting peace in the region. Well, we know from Scripture there'll be a temporary peace. We do know that. 1 Thessalonians 5 tells us when they say peace and safety, then you better look out, because sudden destruction's on the way. But there will be a time of peace in this final Antichrist when he comes on the scene. He will be a man of peace. They'll think he has all the answers. For those of you who are new and haven't watched the program before, or just beginning to, we have a website, Educating Our World, and on that we have 65 books on 11 different biblical topics: God, the Bible, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit. And we have a dozen books on Bible prophecy. And one of them is called The Final Antichrist, The Coming Caesar. And in that book, we go into great detail about this coming world leader, this personage that will basically rule the world. Jesus in John's gospel said, "I've come in my Father's name. You did not believe me. Another will come in his own name. Him you will believe." And the stage is getting set for him. And so, anyway, the peace will not last. We know that. In fact, the worst time in Israel's history is still to come, before the best time still to come, and that's the return of Christ. So anyway, He's going to attend a signing deal in Egypt. Uh, he's going to celebrate the agreement, considering the joint efforts that Egypt made with the United States and the mediators. He said he believes the attack on Iran was important to the deal. And let's not forget that Iran is still waiting in the wings to get attacked. They're still being belligerent, trying to move forward with their nuclear program, and that's kind of put on the shelf for a while because of all the what's going on in Gaza and that. But believe me, we haven't forgot about that. Okay, the agreement was announced after intensive talks in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, where U.S. envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner pushed the two parties to an agreement, along with the Qatar and Egyptian mediators. Trump and Netanyahu do deserve the praise for getting the hostages released, assuming there are no last-minute hitches. And speaking of that, headline number two from the Times of Israel. Senior Hamas official says, we receive U.S. guarantees to end the war. Okay. Khalil al-Hayya, Hamas's chief negotiator over the ceasefire announced today, makes his first speech since the agreement was reached, confirming its terms and saying that the terror group received U.S. guarantees that the war would end. He said, we acted responsibly. They've never acted responsibly in relation to U.S. President Trump's plan. Today, we announced an agreement to end the war. Israel must withdraw from the Strip and carry out a prisoner exchange. No, it's not a prisoner exchange. It's an exchange for hostages. They hold the prisoners. These are murderers and terrorists. These are the ones that you hold are innocent civilians. All right. So they always say that prisoner exchange. It's not prisoner exchange. He says, we received guarantees from the mediators and the Americans that the war had ended indefinitely. Well, it will if you just, disarm, you get out of Gaza and you let some neutral party rule Gaza for a while under the Israeli, auspices in the United States. Anyway, the later stages of the agreement, which calls for Hamas to disarm and for Israel to fully withdraw from Gaza, have yet to be negotiated. And there's where the problem lies. But Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar also said earlier today that Israel is not preparing to renew the war. Believe me, they do not want to renew the war. I can tell you that firsthand. In his speech, al-Hayya thanks the Middle Eastern countries that mediated the agreement, Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey, as well as Iran and Yemen. Yeah, Iran and Yemen. Iran, Israel's chief adversary, is a patron of Hamas, while Yemen is home to the Houthi terror group, another proxy of Iran that has regularly fired missiles at Israel. They continue to do that. And by the way, there was an article yesterday or the day before out. Israel's getting ready now that once they get all this settled to really step it up on the Houthis and do them in like once and for all, so they will be neutralized. So anyway, we'll get to that hopefully soon. Al-Hayya confirms the agreement includes the release, and here's where it's really sad. 250 Palestinian security prisoners will be released serving life sentences. That means most of them are murderers. And 1,700 prisoners from Gaza who were jailed following the terror group's October 7th, 2023 attack. Al-Hayya recalls Hamas operatives who were killed during the war, saying just as they were men on the battlefield, so we were men at the negotiating table. I don't know what he's talking about there. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, there will not be any more fighting as long as Hamas keeps, this is us talking now, as long as Hamas keeps their part of the deal, disarm and leave Gaza. Otherwise, all bets are off. So we'll see. Again, we do not um, hold out any real great expectations for Hamas following through. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. All right, third story. This is worthwhile from YNET News. Israel-Hamas ceasefire hostage deal sparks global praise, as it should. World leaders praised the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deals. Macron pushed for a two-state solution. Spain's Sanchez calls for justice for the horrors. Egypt's al-Sisi hailed a historic moment, and Erdogan thanked Trump, vowing to fight for a Palestinian state. The agreement reached overnight between Israel and Hamas for a ceasefire in Gaza, and the release of all the hostages has sparked widespread hope around the world. Leaders across Europe and beyond hailed the deal, the first phase of Donald Trump's Middle East peace plan, and urged both sides to implement it. Well, Israel's planning on doing it. That's not the worry. Congratulatory messages poured in Thursday morning, particularly from European leaders, eager to see an end to the mass Israel protest. No kidding. They have created mounting political pressure across their countries. It'll be nice not to see that on the college campuses either, across literally across the world, but they'll find something else to protest about with respect to Israel. French President Macron, who last month spearheaded an international initiative to recognize a Palestinian state, said he would continue pushing for that goal. In a post on X, Macron wrote, the agreement must mark the end of the war and the beginning of a political solution based on a two-state solution. France stands ready to contribute to this goal. Well, if Macron, it ain't going to happen. There's not going to be a two-state solution. They had one for 20 years. The second state was called Gaza, and see what happened there. He announced that Paris would hold an international summit later Thursday to advance Trump's peace framework. Israel also has accused Macron of harmful interference in the conflict, saying he's seeking to distract from the political turmoil in France, where his prime minister recently resigned. They're having real problems in France. We just haven't got to that story. But if you've been following that, Macron is not very popular there. All right. Other European leaders avoided direct references to the two-state issue. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called the deal signed in Sharm el-Sheikh a wonderful news and a unique opportunity in this conflict that must absolutely be seized. Her Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said Italy was ready to send a peacekeeping force to the region if needed. The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the moment as profound relief that will be felt around the world, but particularly for the hostages, their families, and of course, he has to mention the civilian population of Gaza. Well, they'll be very happy if Hamas leaves the civilian population of Gaza, who have endured unimaginable sufferings over the last 2 years. Yeah, because of Hamas, they've endured the sufferings. Starmer never got the memo on that. He said the deal's terms must be implemented immediately and in full. He called for the swift removal of all restrictions on life-saving humanitarian aid to Gaza. When you get Hamas out of there, there won't be a problem. They've been the one hijacking all the food. His political rival, Nigel Farage, posted a brief message on X. Huge congratulations to President Trump and his team. Real progress between Israel and Hamas is a great achievement. It is a great achievement, but like what we said earlier, it's just phase one. Let's see if Hamas continues to follow the Trump plan. All right, headline number 4, Israel's military pressure brought Gaza hostages home. This is the IDF chief. He told the soldiers, he wanted all the soldiers to stay on their guard, though, because the enemy is still there. And boy, that's the truth. He has not disappeared. That is the enemy, and there could be unexpected military confrontations. He toured the front lines in Gaza today, Thursday. He told his troops that their military pressure on Hamas is what will bring back the Israeli hostages whom the terror group kidnapped. Due to the substantial military pressure and the high-end quality land invasion, the combat fighters, brought about the conditions to return the hostages to their homes. The military actions led to the diplomatic achievement. And this is so true. And lest we forget, the IDF lost over 1,000 soldiers in the fight against Hamas. They've been very brave. Hopefully, the reserves can finally go back to their homes, be with their families. We have friends over in Israel that give us daily, well, not daily, but pretty much daily, every other day, every third day updates what's going on. And it's been so tough on them, so hard on them because of the bombings that go on. They have to hit the air raid shelters, not knowing when another terrorist attack will take place. And so it's like the country, at least for a while, hopefully can finally exhale. And that really will be the case on Tuesday. There won't be a Monday or Tuesday when the hostages show up. There won't be a dry eye in the house. It'll be so, can you imagine, heart-wrenching. Just put yourself in the place of the hostages. You've been there for 2 years. How about the relatives waiting 2 years for their son, the brother, whoever it might be, fiance. And finally, it's going to be there. It's going to be a great day. All right. Finally, the headline 5, the Palestinian Authority plans for a major role in post-war Gaza, despite the U.S. blueprint. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Senior Palestinian officials privately expressed disappointment in a proposal that would remove the Palestinian Authority until major reforms are made. Palestinian Authority expects a significant role in post-war Gaza, even though President Trump's plan sidelines it for now and is banking on Arab support to secure its position despite Israeli objections, is what the Palestinian officials say. Gaza's future governance has now moved into focus with the ceasefire due to begin on Thursday. That's today. The first step in Trump's bid to end 2 years of war. By the way, the cabinet was supposed to be meeting tonight. They got going a few hours later than it's supposed to be Israeli time. By the time we're filming this, there wasn't any news yet, but it seems to have the majority to give the okay. Originally, I thought it was going to be tomorrow. The parliament called the Knesset was going to meet and okay it. Earlier, they had stories that were actually going to get together and okay it tonight. In other words, once they give the okay, that they accept the deal, that's when the clock starts for the 72 hours. So we'll wait and see. We'll let you know more about that in the morning where we're at on that. Anyway, the next phase of the deal, as we said, must tackle thorny issues, including demands that the terror group disarm and end its rule in Gaza, from where it launched the October 7th massacre. Hamas seized control of the coastal enclave from the Palestinian Authority in 2007. Trump's proposal foresees an internationally supervised technocratic Palestinian committee taking over Gaza after the war. It requires the PA, which is based in the West Bank, to enact reforms before it can assume power. All right, now, if you've been with us for a while, you know we repeatedly emphasize two things over the years. If you're new to us, you're going to hear this over and over again. First, the ownership of the promised land belongs exclusively to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Number two, the Palestinians, there's no such person or group as the Palestinians. They don't exist. They're a made-up group. Yasser Arafat, the leader of the PLO, was born in Egypt. They were people who came from other parts of the Middle East to work there in the country. They've been created to be a thorn in the side of the Israelis, kind of like the underdog that Israel gets blamed for taking advantage of, but no other country will have them. And they've really been treated horribly. But if you're interested in knowing more about this, we have two books, well, one book that deals with this, 25 Signs are near the end, appendices 5 and 6. The biblical answer to the ownership of the promised land. What does the Bible say? It's very clear. Belongs to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Appendix 6, who are the Palestinians? And again, as you're going to see, they're a made-up group. They shouldn't have any authority to rule or govern anything in the promised land. This is the land given by God to, again, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You can find the book on our website, Educating Our World. It's a free download under the heading of Bible prophecy. And we should also remember, I hardly ever say it, we also not only have a website, Educating Our World, we've got the YouTube channel where most of you are watching this from, but we also have an app, EOW at Don Stewart. They're in both app stores. And so you can get them for free, download it for free, EOW at Don Stewart. And, a lot of people watch on the app as a lot of people do on YouTube. All right, I am Don Stewart. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with you tomorrow with another edition of Breaking News. As always, until then, may the Lord richly, richly bless.